Good afternoon, all, and a very warm welcome to the final of this first edition of the futurEU competition. A warm welcome to all our judges, to our finalist teams, our guests, and most importantly, our wider audience listening in from Civica's YouTube channel. Thank you and welcome all. So during this evening, the two finalist teams will compete to be proclaimed the very first winner of the futurEU competition. This competition truly focused on bringing student voices within the debate on the future of the European Union. Yesterday, during two really incredible semifinals, we heard some great proposals for the future of the EU. Now, the best truly awaits. My name is Francesca Minetto. I'm a founder of futurEU, and this evening it will be my great pleasure and honor to be one of your moderators during this event.
And I'm Riccardo Colella, also founder of futurEU and second-year student at the Hertie School. We are joined today here by the rest of the futurEU management team, Cecilia, Marise, Navera, Victor, and Zoe, that will handle the behind the scenes together with the amazing digital learning team at Hertie. Thank you, Jose and Matt.
Thank you, Riccardo. It is now my great pleasure and honor to introduce to you our keynote speaker for this final of the futurEU competition, Professor Dr. Christine Reh. Professor Reh is the Dean of Graduate Programs at Hertie and Professor of European Politics. She previously held academic positions at the College of Europe in Bruges and at the University College London. Professor Reh is also the very first supporter of the futurEU initiative. She knows us from the very beginning, and it is mine and the futurEU team's honor to welcome her on this virtual stage tonight to kick off the final of the futurEU competition. Professor Reh, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Francesca, and thank you so much, Riccardo. The honor is really all mine, and I would just like to very warmly welcome everyone joining us here in Berlin on our virtual stage and in our virtual space. I would like to welcome in particular the student teams from across Europe, not just the finalists, but everyone who's been competing over the past months, everyone watching us from outside our universities, but also from inside our universities, to the juries who enthusiastically read, commented on the students' works over the last few months and trained them in policy writing skills. Thank you. And last but not least, the futurEU team themselves, who have really worked tirelessly to make their vision and their plan a reality. My name is Christine Reh, and I would like to welcome you in a sense in three roles: as the Dean of Graduate Programs here at the Hertie School, as a proud member of the Civica Steering Committee. I will be joined by one of my steering committee colleagues in a moment from Sciences Po, and really as a scholar and as a teacher, as a believer in, but also as a critic of European integration. And I'm really truly delighted to launch tonight's final rounds of the first of what I hope will be many futurEU competitions. I would like to open the competition by looking back at two moments in my, to speak, own European history. So the first moment was 2 decades ago, when I was myself a master's student of European affairs. And back then in the early 2000s, that was the moment when the Convention on the Future of Europe was launched, to give Europe a constitution, a distinct, a more symbolic, and a more connected to the citizens of Europe sort of document than the treaties of the Union. Convention brought together parliamentarians, national and European, as well as representatives of the EU institutions and the EU member states. And that really was a novelty and opened up the reform process of Europe beyond the groups of wise men that had prepared treaty reform in previous rounds. And we could go and listen to the convention debate, and that was, of course, really exciting at that time. The convention concluded its work. An intergovernmental conference adopted the Constitution for Europe, and the Constitution failed, as we all know, in 2 referenda in 2 founding member states of the European Union. But I think in very many ways, and we're seeing this tonight and we're seeing this more generally, the ideas that drove the process of the convention and of the constitution have really lived on in many different forms. And most importantly, I think, citizens have moved much more center stage in the EU's new and newly political environment. Some call this process constraining dissensus. I would phrase it much more optimistically. I think there are very many opportunities at this moment in time. So citizens have moved center stage, and they have done so in everyday policymaking as well as in debates about EU reform. I would just like to give you a few examples. So the European Commission consults very widely before it suggests EU legislation, and it now consults with a completely different audience than it used to at the beginning. At the beginning, it had a classic audience of insider groups and member state governments that dominated the first decades of integration. Now it consults NGOs, citizens, a broader set of stakeholders. Hattie students, for example, last year participated in the public consultations on the Digital Services Act. The Court of Justice of the European Union ruled in 2018 that the so-called first 4-pillar documents, the only source for us from the outside to have an idea of what is going on in informal trilogues in EU lawmaking, cannot be withheld from citizens requesting them unless there's a very particular reason. The Council of the EU debates are televised when ministers operate in a legislative capacity. In my own research with colleagues working with Eurobarometer data, and in particular the most important issue question, we've shown that the European Commission, when setting its legislative priorities, really pays attention to the issues that are most important, most salient to the citizens of Europe. In 2018 and 2019, citizens' consultations were run all across the EU for citizens to consult, to talk, to debate, to deliberate, and ultimately to express their views on the future of the EU. And just as a side note, a lot of so-called citizens' assemblies were run in post-Brexit Britain. And what we saw from those assemblies was that they consistently came up with more pro-European, more moderate solutions than the actual political process. And of course, a month ago, a new conference on the future of Europe was launched. At least in rhetoric, this will be citizen-focused, will be bottom-up, and will be input-generating. These are changes I would welcome, or we all probably welcome, from a democratic perspective. They're also really welcome from a creative perspective. Right? We think much better together than individually. And we need deliberation together to form our ideas, to refine our solutions. And for me as a scholar, this is of course also extremely welcome for all of us scholars and students of European integration, because we're dependent on data access in order to understand, in order to explain, and in order to evaluate the process of EU decision-making. But if you look at all those changes, none of them could fly if Europe's citizens did not take the initiative, if they did not get together and think together about the Europe they would like to see. And this is what the futurEU team has done. The futurEU team have brought together students representing universities from across Europe to present us, each other, the ideas and the voices of young citizens of Europe. And that brings me to my second, much more recent moment of my own European history I would like to share. So in spring 2019, some students knocked at my door who would later become the futurEU initiative. And they pitched their idea with great enthusiasm, with deep knowledge, and with a clear plan. And we decided at that point to involve the Jacques Delors Center at the Hattie School, which itself is a really innovative center bringing together a think tank and a research arm. And the team at the Jacques Delors Center supported, even trained the students' teams splendidly. You may have read the words of welcome by Commissioner Gabriel on the futurEU website. The Commissioner talks about a European education area, about European identity, about spending time abroad to study and to learn. And perhaps for me, this is most impressive in this first of, as I said, I hope many rounds of futurEU competitions. The students reflected, and the students learned, and the students debated and presented. But the teams could not travel, and they couldn't join each other, right? They couldn't meet in person. And yet we've seen a highly successful competition full of innovative ideas, and most importantly, full of cooperation within and across institutions. So in short, our students for the past year have not only studied under unusually difficult conditions, they were determined to realize their plans and to lay the foundations of a pan-European student initiative. And the futurEU team and all participants adapted and delivered, and they were really resilient and flexible. And that is perhaps for me the greatest gift a European education could offer in the crisis year 2020-2021. For all of us, that learning, that creativity, that ideas, that exchange can get us all through difficult times and help us to look forward in all meanings of the word to Europe's future. Now I'm standing between you and the presentations. We all look forward to them. I've been allowed to sneak preview, and I think we are all in for a treat. And we're also in for two presentations that each in a different way give answers to one of the most fundamental and most enduring questions of European governance. How can we legitimate this experiment of a policy beyond member states where representation needs to accommodate national, territorial, and ideological fault lines? Connect the local to the supranational, says one team. Institutionalize citizens' roles and maximize creativity and diversity, says the other. One team joins us from the European University Institute. The other is a Franco-German cooperation that emerged from the first Civica joint course between Sciences Po and the Hertie School. This is maybe a good moment to, I believe, hand over to my colleague Aurélien, or first perhaps back to Francesca and Ricardo. Thank you all very much, and I look forward to the debate.
Thank you, Professor, for your riveting speech. We're really proud to have started this initiative, and we're sure that your speech will also be inspiring for our audience at home. We will now present the panel of judges. Professor Dr. Ray is the chair of the panel, so please actually turn back on the camera. And as I mentioned your names, please also turn on your cameras. We have as well Dr. Nicole König, Deputy Director of the Jacques Delors Center Berlin, and her colleagues, Dr. Christian Freudelsberger, Research Coordinator, Dr. Tu Nguyen, Policy Fellow, Dr. Niels Redeker, Policy Fellow, Dr. Marta Migliorati, Research Fellow, and Heidi Breuer, Project Lead for the Franco-German Dialogue. And now I will hand it over to Francesca.
Well, first of all, thank you, Christine, for your very kind words. Thank you to the judges, without their support, we wouldn't be here today. So truly a big thank you to all of you. Now, the heart of the final of the futurEU competition begins. So I'll say goodbye to the judges, who we will be seeing very soon. The two finalist teams will now present their visionary treaty reforms on a better European Union. Before I invite to the stage our first team, I would like to let our audience know that after the judges' questions, you will have the right to submit questions to the teams yourself. You can do so utilizing the Menti platform. Just insert the code that you find in the YouTube event description. Don't miss the chance to ask our teams questions about their proposal. And now, our first team, Team 4387, it's a mixed team composed of a Hertie School student and a Sciences Po student. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Neslihan Altoun and Elena Schulz-Rutenberg. I invite them to put their cameras on. Welcome, Neslihan. I imagine we will soon be joined by Elena as well. Thank you. I'll ask our digital learning manager, Jose, to please put on their presentation. We are now all set. Elena, you should have presenter rights. If you're ready, your 12 minutes will start now.
Okay.
Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We are extremely honored to be part of this final. So once again, with having incorporated yesterday's feedback from the judges to the best of our knowledge, we will present to you our proposal. It carries the title, How to Match EU Legislation with Local Realities, a legally enshrined position for the Committee of the Regions. We are Neslihan Althon and Elena Scholz-Rotenberg. We both study public policy, but at different universities. I studied at the Hertie School, and Elena is a student at Sciences Po. In times of the COVID-19 pandemic, regions and cities have become the front and center of the effective policymaking. It is there where politics is explained, experienced, and implemented. Matching legislation with local realities is thus crucial in states of emergency. 70% of all EU legislation is implemented by local and regional authorities. Finding regionally differentiated solutions will become even more pressing in face of central challenges of our times, such as climate change, digitalization, or socioeconomic inequality. That is why we decided the institutional body, which represents regional and local actors at the EU level, namely the Committee of the Regions, has to be reformed.
According to a Eurobarometer study, 90% of all Europeans do not know what the Committee of the Regions does. This lack of knowledge is not due to the body's inactiveness. We list here 4 out of many of its recent contributions. First of all, in the discussions on the EU budget, the committee was the primary defender of the necessity to keep 2/3 of the EU's financial means allocated to cohesion policy. It delivered this message through an EU-wide campaign branded Cohesion Alliance. Secondly, under the slogan Regions for Climate, it advocated for a Green Deal that adopts a holistic and place-based approach. The Green Deal Going Local initiative for the exchange of best practices is a product of this intention. Thirdly, the COR has published its first EU Regional Barometer, which is an evidence-based report on issues with a strong territorial dimension. This time it dealt with the impact of the pandemic. And fourthly, we want to point you to the initiative Cities and Regions for Integration of Migrants. This project provides a political platform to showcase positive examples of integration and to share relevant information. Furthermore, there are several areas where we believe the COR of tomorrow is indispensable. To begin with, in view of global pandemics, in view of climate, digital, and demographic transition, building resilient regional and local communities will be one key priority. In addition, the committee aims at bringing stakeholders together to rethink how EU democracy should look like in the future. It will be a central actor to organize the conference on the future of Europe starting later this year. A third endeavor of the committee is to reduce the administrative burden of EU legislation. And lastly, the Committee of the Regions has and will continuously promote the idea that cohesion is not only about money. Cohesion is more than a policy. It should be recognized as a fundamental value of the EU. Before we outline our reform proposal, let's look at the current mandate of the committee. The COR is primarily a body of consultation. It issues recommendations to the Commission, to the Council, and to the Parliament, either on a mandatory, voluntary, or self-initiated basis. The second main function of the COR is to act as guardian of subsidiarity. To ensure compliance with this principle, it can institute proceedings before the ECJ once the legislation has been adopted, ex post. What is another important but hardly formalized task of this committee is its contribution to the impact assessment, which are carried out by the Commission. As a remark, impact assessments are evaluations which determine the added value of different policy options. Unfortunately, these two pillars stand on a brittle ground. A central concern is that most of the COR opinions are shelved away without anyone reading them. We argue that this has systemic reasons. Firstly, the committee faces a time disadvantage because it cannot draft opinions as fast as necessary for Council and Parliament to always take it into account. Secondly, the COR lacks political room for maneuver, given that own initiative opinions have been used relatively little inside of their politicized nature. Thirdly, the Committee of the Regions' contribution to impact assessments is insufficiently formalized in the treaties. And lastly, the right of referral to the ECJ for judicial review does not give the committee the necessary ex ante scrutiny. You're muted.
Thank you so much. With our idea, we want to tackle these shortcomings. The first part of our reform aims at the legal appreciation of the Committee of the Regions as partner of the Commission in the impact assessment procedure. According to our judgment, both legal documents which currently codify the committee's involvement are insufficient in their scope. Therefore, we propose that the right of mandatory legislative consultation should be extended to allow for mandatory pre-legislative consultation. This gives the committee the right for ex ante examination of the impact of union legislation. It also offsets the time disadvantage the committee has in the legislative procedure. Finally, we argue that this new right should be institutionally flanked by a seat for the committees in the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, which reviews the Commission's impact assessments. The second part of our reform seeks to entitle the committee to consult the European Parliament on taking legislative initiative. What does that mean? The Committee of the Regions would have the right to draw up consultative initiative reports in the areas of mandatory consultation. In turn, the Parliament should be obliged to inform the Committee about reasons for not acting upon its recommendations. This justification should be enforceable in front of the European Court of Justice. The explained mechanism is comparable to the Article 225 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union. However, the committee gets the legally protected right to consult and not the indirect right to initiate legislation. This innovation will reinforce the cooperation between the Parliament and the committee by aligning them towards a common goal, namely to initiate people-centered legislative proposals. In sum, we enable the committee to intervene proactively, and we forge an institutional alliance with the European Parliament. In the long run, we believe this strengthens the Parliament's indirect influence on the political agenda of the European Union. 3 scenarios. We place our proposal in between 2 other scenarios. As explained, leaving everything as it is means a waste of resources and a de-evaluation of the subnational level of governance. On the other hand, moving beyond consultation, potentially turning the committee into a third legislator, would initiate a new power rivalry and make EU legislation even more complex. That it is why we defend the happy medium. We want to make the committee a strongly ally of the European Commission and the European Parliament by granting it legal recognition and an option for proactive engagement.
We listened very closely to the judges' feedback yesterday, and we believe that we have strong arguments to face their critique. It is true that there is no acute cure to the anonymity dilemma that the COR faces. But we are convinced that institutional recognition, as envisaged by our reform, will enhance the committee's visibility in the long term. Secondly, the processes in Brussels are already extremely complex. But we argue that our primary goal should be effective and inclusive policies. So we should be okay with the necessary institutional complexity to achieve this. The COR's evidence-based consultation is not what we should cut down on. And thirdly, how do we want to achieve the implementation of our reform if it lacks political majorities and is rather unappealing? Here we argue that the Commission wants effective laws. The Parliament wants a stronger representation of the people in Europe. And EU citizens want Brussels to appear less decoupled from their life reality. All of these interests are shared by the Committee of the Regions and echoed by our proposal. That is why we believe there is a political majority for it. You're muted.
Thank you. And we also believe that we designed a realistic vision, and a vision that was already postulated by Jacques Delors in 1994. In light of this idea, we believe our proposal has the potential to strengthen European democracy by thinking it from the bottom instead of from the top. Our ultimate vision is to make the European Parliament and the Committee of the Region an inseparable institution tandem who unitedly lobby for the people in Europe. To conclude, we presented to you a two-tier reform. First, we demand a fully fledged formalization of the committee's implication in the impact assessments. Secondly, we want to endow the Committee of the Regions with a pioneering option for proactive engagement in alliance with the Parliament. With this, we unite the consultative and the political representative role of this body, and we achieve to do less more effectively. Our proposal, it is realistic, it is proportional, it is proactive, and it is needed now.
And with that being said, thank you very much for your attention, and we really hope that at least to you, the Committee of the Regions is no longer unknown.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Elena and Neslian, for your innovative proposal. I would like now to open the floor for questions. Just as a reminder, the judges will initially ask 3 questions, and they will have 5 minutes for there will be 5 minutes for you to reply. And then we will open up as well to the audience at home. And for now, I'm also asking the audience to submit questions through Menti. You find the link in the YouTube description below. And please, the judges, if you can come on camera. Yes, thank you. And you can now ask 3 questions. Is everybody on? Okay. Thank you all. Please.
Hello, I will go with the first question. Hi, thank you so very much for a great presentation. It was very interesting, very well presented. So I think that everyone agrees that you did a tremendous job. And thank you also, of course, for the paper. We would like to ask you 3 questions, and then we go with the first one, and then other 2 colleagues will ask the second and the third. And the first one is one of a general nature. So I think you introduced your presentation and you concluded that by saying that indeed the Committee of Regions is not a very known institution, right? Not many people know what it is or what it does. And so we were really curious to know how you came up with this proposal in the first place. And it's really because truly, like, not many people know about that. So coming up with such a detailed and interesting reform proposal, well, requires quite a lot of research on the institution itself. So yeah, it will be really cool knowing about that. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you so much, Neslihan and Elena, for this stellar presentation. I have one question to you as well, and that pertains to what Christine already mentioned in her introducing remarks on the democratic deficit of the EU. I mean, you know, the discussion about the democratic deficit has been ongoing forever, basically. The democratic deficit is near legendary. What would be the impact of your proposal on the EU system of representation at large? And what is its potential to actually alleviate the democratic deficit? And especially if the Council of the Regions gets an ex-ante legislative role, would that not even further complicate the already extremely complicated decision-making system in the European Union?
Okay, I see you are still taking notes. Are you ready for the third question? Okay. So thanks also from my side. It was really impressive, the proposal that you presented. The third question, like our third question is, if you increase the importance of one institution, so of the Committee of the Regions, how do you make sure not to weaken other representative bodies of the EU system? So, for example, the Parliament, or also the member states through the Council. Okay, so we are looking forward to your answers.
So maybe you can start, please, Elena, and I can continue.
Okay. Yeah, we came up with this because we both worked on Europe of the regions as a old concept, which then developed to Europe with the regions, and then there was more and more research popping up on multi-level governance, and that is why this institution was in the back of our head, and we thought of something for this competition that maybe nobody else would think of, so that's why we decided to choose the Committee of the Regions.
And I also would like to add that both of us were involved in projects which had something to do with deliberative democracies. So we thought of, okay, which institution represents actually the voice of the people next to the European Parliament? And we thought about this again and again, and we came up with the Committee of the Regions, which actually represents and the voice of the people from the regional and local authorities, and has the same power dynamics actually as itself for as the European Parliament. That's why we were really interested, and we hope to surprise you all with our recommendation for the Committee of the Regions, and it happened actually. So
yes. Okay, so then moving to the second question of the democratic deficit and how we would think our proposal tackles it. As we said, we believe that we create an institutional alliance between the Committee of the Regions and the Parliament. And as the Parliament stands at the core of European democracy, because it is the true representative of the people, we think that actually looking forward and having in mind that Commission President von der Leyen said that the Parliament, she actually considered it could have a stronger role in the legislature in the future. So looking on that and the stronger role the Parliament will have in the future, we believe having the COR as a sparings partner at the side of the Parliament basically would make this, would make the Parliament, which we still believe is in the center of our of European legislature, would make it stronger. And this is also a good, I think, bridge to the third question, because it considers the power dynamics. So Neslihan, do you want to tackle this one?
Exactly. So we do not want to build up a new institution or in the strong same manner as the European Parliament. We would like to put more focus on the institution which is kind of forgotten and which also represents the voice of the people in Europe. So in sum, we do not weaken the other institutions, because the European Parliament is still the institution who represents the holistic voice of the European people, but we would like to concentrate the voice of the European people, which the Committee of the Regions actually represents, because it's such a concentrated capacity and knowledge that they have, and which could actually add up on the work and on the depth of the EU legislation procedure, which can be a plus on top of actually everything that European Parliament already does. So it is an add-on and not a position which actually tries to build a new power rivalry towards European Parliament.
And one additional comment, maybe on the technical side, we put up this cooperation when it comes to the impact assessment, but also the cooperation when it comes to legislative initiative, so that there is still on the one side the Commission, but also the Parliament, who decide whether they take into account the consultation. Of course, we then incorporated this mechanism that the Parliament needs to argue why it did not incorporate it. And the Commission in the current cooperation agreement says it will also deliver reasons if it does not do this. So we believe that is why there will not be a power rivalry or why other institutions are not weakened, because they remain having the upper hand basically on when to take into account the consultation.
And yes.
Well, thank you both for your answers to the judges. We received Christian.
Would it be possible to ask one more question, a really short one?
Very short one.
Because I think we coordinated among ourselves in the group of judges, and I think we want to ask a similar question to the second group as well. Just suppose you were writing a policy proposal for the Jacques Delors Center based on what you just presented. How could this proposal become more ambitious than what you propose currently?
We really thought about this after yesterday's comment that it might not have been visionary enough, also with facing competition from an extremely visionary and creative team. And we thought that we can put up the scenario of making the CUR or including it even stronger in the legislative process. We believe there are options which we can develop together, but we didn't want to destroy our argumentation, and given extremely little time, we stick to the setup we used and going for or argumenting for the medium intermediate way kind of. But we believe there is necessity and ways to make the CR stronger in the legislative procedure.
And we would like to follow the concept of doing less more effectively, step by step. So we would like to start little and then grow in the long run, hopefully.
Thanks a lot. Sorry for this very cheeky question.
Thank you. Thank you, judges, for your questions. I have to say we received quite a few questions from the audience, and our team picked the ones that were mostly voted. So here it goes. I'll read it to you, the first and the second, and then you receive another 5 minutes. The first one is this proposal ostensibly building a better middleman? Would a more direct model, one that brings regional representation to the Commission, be a better solution for both governance and cohesion? This is our first audience question. Second one, why did you choose to look at the Committee of the Regions and not at the European Economic and Social Committee? Thank you. You now have 5 minutes.
Elena, I would like to answer the second question, if you don't mind, so you can go with the first one.
Of course. Okay, so I start. I might not understand the question to its fullest extent, but we do strengthen the cooperation between Commission and regional representatives by including the Committee of the Regions in the impact assessment. Why we say that actually the Commission is not the true or baddest fit as a cooperation partner is because what we discussed earlier, that the Parliament is from its values, its understanding of where it stands in the EU, a better fit as partner. So in terms of governance and cohesion, we do not believe that the Commission would be the perfect fit, at least not if we consider the multi-level and multi-stage process in which EU legislation happens. And also, of course, we want to be, there is a trade-off between being very efficient, very fast, because we immediately go towards the Commission, but then we have the trade-off with being less democratic, less inclusive towards the voice of people and regional representatives. So let's stop here for the first question, so you have time for the second one.
So the second question is a valid question. Of course, we thought of this too, because it's another consultative body of the European Union as well. So why not the European Economic and Social Committee? So we think it is essential to consult and to include the consultative body in general in the legislative procedure. So that means also the European Economic and Social Committee. And the mechanisms we propose could be actually analogously and could be equally also applied on the European Economic and Social Committee. But because we believe on evidence-based policy making, there will be surely information and more facts that actually tries to hint that there is a need of action in that policy area as well, such as social cohesion. So it is there are parallel lines or parallel policies that could be aligned together, which makes it even stronger. So because there's also again a really strong capacity, and that needs to be, that shouldn't be excluded, that shouldn't be really looked at in detail, and actually have the right to go in front of the European Court of Justice if this idea, this brilliant idea, for example, has not been considered. So this is why I believe it's kind of could be equally promoted in that way too.
And yes, third question?
Yeah, no, we're gonna move on to the second team. Thank you very much, Elena and Neslihan, for your presentation and your questions. It was really good of you. And I'll now ask all the judges to close their cameras, and also Neslihan and Elena. And we will welcome the second team. We have a team from EUI. I see Dylan, Naira, Moaz, and Josep. And you should already see the presentation. Dylan, you should have now presenter rights. Please confirm that, okay? And whenever you're ready, your 12 minutes will start now.
Okay, hello everybody. This is Eurokratos, Abrazos of the People. We are team 7745. This is Naira, Moaz, Dylan, and myself, Joseph. We are very happy to be here today, and we say thank you to the organization, the judges, and the audience in YouTube. We're here to present our little policy brief proposal, which we have divided today again in 4 parts. The first one belonging to me. So what I'm going to try to do on this very first part is give you a bit of the logic behind our proposal. And this logic comes from looking back at the last 10 years in European Union history and somehow devising these 2 storylines that parallel each other but also correlate to one another. The first one is the crisis stories that we all know, and of course starts even before the last decade with the financial crisis in 2007, followed by the debt crisis, the rule of law, which has never ended, the refugee issue, Brexit, and now COVID-19, the mother of all of the crisis. If we are to take the idea that the European Union is somehow built on the management of its own crisis, we come to realize that the political forces that have captured and capitalized on the momentum and narrative of this crisis very much goes against go very much against the other story, which is the democratization story, which very much resonates with Christie's first speech of today. And of course, it does start again before the last decade in the Constitutional Convention in 2004, followed by the Lisbon Treaty in 2007, unleashing and incorporating these avenues of participatory democracy in European institutions. We have just now the 10th anniversary of the European Citizens Initiative that managed to capture a lot of imagination and was very much welcome throughout the whole spectrum. But just like the Spitzenkandidaten or the citizens consultation in 2018, have somehow failed to deliver on those expectations. Now we find ourselves, as Christine said, in front of this conference again, which has for another time raised the expectations, but as well a lot of doubts. So what we're trying to do with our proposal is somehow join these two stories, you know, like the left one, the responsible Europe, and the democratization story, which is the Europe that tries to respond, and somehow build a reciprocity between those stories, taking stock from the very momentum that we're living in, both our COVID-19 crisis and standing in this conference of the future of Europe. We're just trying to give you the next chapter of this story. And I guess, Naida, now is your turn to develop on that.
Yes, thank you very much. So taking stock of all that, we drafted a roadmap that brings us in the direction of the EU we want to live in, which first and foremost works towards greater unity, solidarity, and truly representative representation. That is to say, where its representatives look, think, talk, and act like those they say to represent. And all of that in order to achieve a higher degree of institutional legitimacy and public trust, which seems to us is at an all-time low. And for that, the ideals of transparency, inclusivity, accountability must be of utmost importance. And we believe this can only be achieved through direct participation. And furthermore, direct participation has the benefits of cognitive diversity, which allows to pull together the distinctive ideas, backgrounds, thought processes, and experiences of all in order to elevate our decision-making to its best possible outcomes. The presence of Europeans from all walks of life in our institutions will radically improve both awareness of how decision-making takes place in Europe and in institutions in general, as well as the best communication practices to ensure the information reaches every corner of the Union through the channels and the means that fit them best. We believe this will bring an end to the perceived to be widespread practices of lobbying, clientelism, corruption, and rent-seeking, and of the EU being at a level far removed from our daily oversight, and replace them by ensuring first-hand know-how on the most pressing problems and best-fit solutions. All of this would locate the EU as a front-runner in terms of transnational democratization, and will bring us closer to building a continental-wide agora for democratic discussion.
Okay, so what do we propose? Our proposal basically is about choosing 3 citizens from each member state of the European Union to form the European Senate. How will we do so? We'll do so through sortition, which will take place twice, one in December and the other in June. Each batch of 3 citizens will serve for a period of 1 year. We'll have 2 batches. One will start in January and the other will start in June. This will help greatly in the transfer of power, as senators will be able to share experiences and information with one another, formally and informally. And this will also help them in assuming their duties, as they will also have trainings that will happen 1 weekend of every month for the period of 6 months. And before they can assume their duties, they will have the period of 2 weeks, an intensive boot camp. This will also help in citizen engagement, as the sortition will lead to the selection of senators from all segments of the European society. It will raise awareness about the European civic rights and responsibilities, making the concept of European citizenship more concrete. It will also bring politics to the most distant from the European project, as the Senate presidency will continue, yet with an amended version. The role of the presidency of the Council of Ministers of the European capital culture, going through European cities and telling people about the activities. And as we learned from COVID, meetings will be carried online. This will also help in the great project of the green project of the European Union, because it will decrease the carbon footprint of the centers. Now we move to the advanced and disadvantages from Dylan.
So I will be talking about the challenges and how we can turn these challenges into opportunities. And I'll first discuss our feedback and question from yesterday and why we decided to get rid of the Council of the EU and why, you know, this institution that's the representative of the member states, and why not, when we're unleashing the raw power of the demos, why not put that in the place of the Parliament instead? But as the co-legislator of the EU, the Council of the EU is kind of a de facto upper house, and this is how we envision the Senate. So the Parliament is formed based on, you know, population, and there's a certain number of MEPs per population, and we're keeping this Senate to be more of a representative of the member states, as we keep that there is 3 senators for each member state, but it is not the more institutionalized ministers, members of governments, but just ordinary people that are that have their raw experiences and can put this into practice and into policy and into the very decisions that affect their everyday lives. And then we also got a question about why we didn't maybe go towards more of a US Senate and directly elected upper house. But we also think that sortition kind of gets rid of this self-selection bias that, okay, it's very well and good. Every European citizen can run for the European Parliament, yet according to Politico, there was only 17 members of the European Parliament out of 751 elected in 2019 that were of an ethnic minority, and that just does not represent Europe. There is, it's with sortition, we get people from every walks of life, and even though there may not be the highest, utmost perfect technical experience, studies have shown, such as the one that was cited in our paper by Hung and Page in 2004, that showed cognitive diversity is actually more effective in decision-making and policy-making than technical expertise. And so we think inputting this raw, interesting, out-of-the-box ideas for policy from the European citizens, from the people that it's affecting in their everyday lives, it could be really rich and could make Europe work better. And further, that we're institutionalizing this role in the position of, in the legislative process, that it's not a temporary patch, but a structural, and it's really transformational. And it's an advance into an unknown territory for the EU, for democracy, and it's the greatest, possibly, advancement of democracy the EU has seen since its foundation. And we specifically wanted it to replace the Council of the EU as a sort of upper house of the Parliament, in order that it doesn't become a sort of add-on, such as the Committee of Regions or the European Economic and Social Committee, that are, yes, very important, but they're advisory and consultatory, and they're not very well known to the European population. That we want to have this, the place where citizens can have their voices. We want it to be front and center in European policy making and decision making. And further, we can believe that this, with citizens from every walks of life, with the raw energy, that it will allow for a more transparent, open, knowledgeable exchange between the center, say in Brussels, and the peripheries. And it will stop the lobbying that happens in European capitals that is not recorded in the EU Transparency Register, that when ministers come from the capitals to Brussels and lobby on behalf of, say, national interests, this will come to an end, and it will be more open and transparent. And we got a comment yesterday that maybe this is too utopian, and yes, maybe it is utopian, but we are in times of crisis. I came to political maturity during the financial crisis, and so basically my whole adult experience and political being has been through the past 10 years of crisis. So, maybe we do need utopian solutions to this crisis. And is it achievable? I think it's absolutely achievable. Why not? Let's unleash the raw power of the European demos and invigorate Europe again, and really have a Eurocratos in Brussels of the people. So I'd like to say thank you and welcome all your questions.
Truly, congratulations on this presentation. Another great visionary scenario for a treaty reform. I see that the judges are already joining us here on stage. So as before, the judges will now ask you 3 questions and you'll get 5 minutes to reply. I ask the audience to start submitting their questions on Menti as well, and I'll ask those at a later point. Thank you.
Maybe I can start. First of all, thank you so much for this very interesting and visionary and fun presentation. I think I really like the spirit, and especially by pointing into the lack of diversity in EU institutions, you're really also pointing towards an issue that's often overlooked, but very important. And I want to push you a bit on the idea that this sortition mechanism it solves issues of legitimacy and trust. So on the one hand, I would like to know what makes you think that being governed by a collection of randomly selected people builds more trust than being governed by government that you had your say in voting, or at least you could have had your say in voting. And on the other hand, I was wondering whether the risk of being randomly selected into having to govern the EU for a year, is that really something that is appealing to many people? I think probably most people in this call would think that this could be fun. But if I think of my friends, I think most of them would like the idea of having to leave their life and start thinking about the EU for a year in their life. So, and then being fined if you don't want to do that, is that really something that makes the EU more appealing, or are you? Is there a risk to that as well?
Perhaps I can continue with the second question. My question is more about this idea that these citizens would take over the role of the council and sort of be the new council, so to speak. And I have two questions about that, really. So one is about the continuity and how this all really would look in practice. How does it work if there's a new, or every half year, there's a new kind of assembly deciding on issues that mostly take many, many years to decide? So if you think about the multi-annual framework of the European Union, the discussions and the negotiations, they take years. It's super, super contentious. You need unanimity at the moment. How would that work in practice if you have a randomly assigned citizens assembly that switches so often also in composition? And then the second aspect that comes with that is, what would be the legitimacy of the citizens to negotiate these kind of issues? Because of course right now we have this dual legitimacy in the European Parliament on the one hand, and then the national parliaments on the other hand, that sort of control the national governments. What would that look like if the council were to be replaced by the Senate as you propose? And why would they be the ones legitimate to take over the negotiations for things like the budget? And how would that look long term if they switch all the time, but the negotiations in fact go on for a very long time?
Yeah, thank you very much. Also from my side, I think you were really extremely creative with this proposal, and reading your proposal really put a smile on my face. So congratulations, really, really for that. I would like to ask you the question that we asked the last group, but in reverse. Basically, not how can you make this proposal more ambitious, but how can you make this proposal more realistic and a bit less ambitious? Because you say it's definitely achievable. I have to say I don't really buy that. You have to convince me a bit more. And I'm wondering here, you said you spoke about the transparency of the council on the one hand, and you also said it should not be some kind of additional body, but what if you would make it less ambitious and turn it into kind of new channel of democratic legitimacy? And I would like to ask you as well, have you thought about the relation to the Conference on the Future of Europe with your proposal? Thanks a lot.
Is that all? Yeah? Okay, maybe I can start and give my few cents and everyone can come in after. Well, thank you very much for the questions. On the first question, we believe that it is true that many people would actually find it a little scary to imagine that they're suddenly put in Brussels. But we also believe that everyone does not realize that they already have opinions on everything that is being debated in Brussels. Everyone knows whether they want free healthcare. Everyone knows whether the public transport is infra-funded or not, and whether that's important to them. So people do have these opinions, do have very clear stances. They just don't link it to how that is politics. There's no ethereal idea of politics and economics. It's our everyday decisions. It's things that we already know. So we think it may take a few years for people to get kind of into the tracks of this, but they would quickly realize that everyone is empowered already. It's just a matter of giving them the chance of putting these qualities and this knowledge that they already have into giving name to what they already feel and think. And also the questions about legitimacy and trust, we believe they are assuming that the current system, because it is the default system, has any kind of legitimacy and trust. We think this trust has been broken, especially in our generation, because we've seen nothing other than crisis of any kinds. But this has been broken for many generations before. So it is the time for experimentation. It is a time for making mistakes, for trying new things, for reconducing and trying super ambitious proposals. And on the last point, we did expect this question for sure, how to make it less ambitious. And we were discussing that an idea that's a little bit less exciting, but for sure more feasible, would be to make it a conference on the future of Europe that happens every 5 years, maybe even on the occasion of the elections. So during European elections period, we have this citizen consultation. So it's a middle ground between something that is institutionalized, but also doesn't mean the setup of a whole body. And whatever is the main issue of debate at that time, people can bring their input into the discussion.
And then maybe I'll just add a little bit more to what Naira said. On the first question about, is it really good to, say, fine people if they don't partake and this kind of thing? Would it actually help the EU? But we kind of had the idea of, say, reaching out to people's kind of Republican civic values of, doing their part for the state and doing their part to, improve the lives of their fellow citizens. And well, there's that side, but then there's also that our proposal also included for the 1 year as being a senator, you get paid the same salary as an MEP, which, is not a bad deal, I think. And so then the fine we proposed was based on, it was certain levels based on income. So it isn't, one huge massive fine. If you're, working class person in Katowice, you're not getting the same fine as if you're a banker and refuse to do it in Paris. So it was kind of this way as well. So I think this was kind of our idea, and I think personally it would be quite attractive, but I'm not sure how many, say, ordinary people outside the whole bubble would find it. But I think that was our kind of proposal of getting people more involved and excited about the idea.
Thank you, team, for your replies. We will now move on to the questions from the audience. And I would also like to take the opportunity to thank the audience for joining us via YouTube. We have one question, the first one, that has been asked by Mark Hallerberg, acting president of the Hertie School, who joins us via YouTube. And also hi to Professor Hallerberg. How would you move from the current state of affairs to this new equilibrium, which is quite radical? And this is the first one. And then the second one is, do you think the citizens would have sufficient knowledge of the highly technical issues discussed at the EU level and of the regional specificities? Now, again, you have 5 minutes.
So maybe I can take the first question on how we moved from the current state of affairs to this kind of new paradigm. We kind of see the Senate fitting into the sort of existing legislative procedures. So if it was an ordinary legislative procedure, then the Commission would still draft the laws and then send it to the Parliament and the Senate, and they would either amend or approve or send it back to each other. But then in the case of, say, the special legislative procedure, we kind of seen it switch. And the current role of the council would kind of go to the Parliament, where they would be the ones with the role to amend and basically have the role of the council in the current special legislative procedure. And then the Senate would just either be approving or not giving their consent to a piece of legislation. But we see it, basically just fitting in. And I think it is obviously quite a big change, but I think anything is doable, and our demands are, quite modest, shall we say, that we just demand the earth. But, everything is good. And then I maybe will hand it over to one of my teammates for the second question.
Yes, I guess on the question of knowledge and the lack of expertise by these supposed to be senators that come from the daily life. Well, first of all, we're proposing a period of training to them. So we're not throwing them into the wilderness without building like legislative expertise and policymaking expertise. And then, of course, if we are to think about this European Senate made out of citizens, we're also thinking about a structure that would somehow support them with technical knowledge. So we don't know. Of course, this could be like either from the capitals of the nation states or to Brussels itself, but there has to be an ad hoc whatever expert, high panel, or like an expert assistance or an expert advisory body for these senators. And I don't know, Moaz, maybe you want to build to finish?
Yeah, like I can build on this. So building on actually what Naira said at the beginning when she was talking about like bringing people from all aspects of the society, these people who care about their healthcare, these people who care about their housing, they care about what can be seen very menial tasks, but these people actually, they have the potential to bring these issues even further into the Senate, to make it in a more European context. And these people, by taking that enough training that they need, we don't expect these people to leave the Senate afterwards and disappear. No, the continuity of their work will also continue with them. These people still, with their own expertise and their own experience in the European Senate, they will teach the other about what happened. This will raise the awareness about European civic citizenship.
And then I guess just to finish, because I think we have not answered the question on continuity. And I guess, yes, this is something that has somehow been around our heads. And of course, there is a mismatch there, between a temporal mismatch. But I have to say there is not a conclusion from our team at this moment. But we promise to have one if we get to extend this proposal into a policy brief to the Jacques Delors Center. So we're very happy. We're very happy to keep working on it, and of course, this is just building on it. So again, thank you very much for your time, judges, organization, futurEU. This is a fantastic job, and very much looking for your feedback.
Well, thank you so much to Team 7745 for a great presentation. I think that you all really have to agree with me. We heard two incredible proposals for the future of the EU. I would really like to congratulate both teams on their work. And I think the judges have their job cut out for them now. It will be a very tough decision. We will be sending the judges to a breakout room so that they can deliberate and take a decision confidentially. I'll now ask Jose to please start the breakout room for the judges. And for the audience, another very important moment of our futurEU final awaits us. And I will now like to give the floor to Ricardo to present our special guest for the evening. I see the judges are still with us. I'll wait a second. Great.
Perfect. Thank you, Francesca. And I would like now to welcome on stage Civica's Executive Director, Aurélien Kreibich. You're welcome to turn the camera on and the mic on. The director has previously headed the International Affairs Division at Sciences Po, in charge of the European strategy. During his time at Sciences Po, he strengthened the university's partnerships with Bocconi, LSE, the Hertie School, and SSE. And I would like as well to take the opportunity to send greetings to our friends of the Civica partner universities all across Europe. And we are very pleased to have you here today with us. Your support means a lot to us. Please.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. Thank you, Francesca. Like I said, the honor is mine. I mean, it's absolute delight to attend this meeting and to follow the debates, to hear the students and PhD researchers from the Alliance that present their visionary proposals and projects for the EU. I I mean, those projects are fascinating, interesting, detailed, sharp. As executive director, I work behind the scenes and I spend days and nights on Civica, so I can share with you anything you would like to know about this fantastic project. As you know, Civica is very proud to support the futurEU competition, which contributes to shaping the EU of tomorrow. By involving students and PhD researchers in the public debate and match Civica's mission and core value. Christine Ray already said that the level of participation is very impressive, and I would like also to pay tribute to the amazing professionalism in which the competition has been organized. So a warm thanks to the funders. My name is Aurélien Crébiche. I am the executive director of Civica. I've been involved since day one in the design and the implementation of the project. You know that Civica brings 8 higher education institutions within a pilot initiative, which is called the European Universities Alliance Initiative, funded under Erasmus+, but also more recently through a scheme which name is Horizon 2020, and what we call now Civica Research. So under Civica, we want to promote education and research with the ambition to build the universities of the future, at least in Europe. Civica gives a significant importance to student involvement, both in the implementation and the promotion of its activities. And I was listening to those excellent presentations and debates, and I can honestly tell you that the honor is mine, and it's exactly what we had in mind, and where we are spending long hours with my fellow colleagues from the RT School and from the other institution to set this new stage, to build this new platform, which is named Civica, a stage that belongs to students and academics across the Alliance, but also beyond in Europe. Our ambition is to make Civica a true European experience for the students by offering them innovative and exciting new opportunities in terms of mobility, degrees, access to libraries, creating a digital campus, also through sports and cultural experience as soon as the situation will allow us to resume those activities, and also through innovating, debating societies such as a future EU. It is also the occasion, the opportunity for me to highlight the work of Civica student ambassadors who are greatly contributing to Civica's mission, value, and development. They are ranging from undergraduate students to postdoctoral researchers, and they represent each university in Civica. They promote interaction within the Alliance community. They bond us, so they have a very important role to play. So to all Civica students that are following us on YouTube today, or maybe through other social media platforms, if you have any ideas or projects in mind, please reach out to us through Civica.eu. There are a lot of contacts, and we are easy to reach. So if you feel that you want to join the project, do not hesitate to reach out to us. futurEU is reflecting faithfully our values and the DNA. We feel that at the heart of Civica, there is an engagement among students across different campuses, disciplines, traditions. This is a pillar of our vision and how we can foster inclusion, dialogue, and knowledge sharing through those kind of initiatives. Again, I'm full of recognition. I believe that futurEU is bridging minds and foster creativity in Europe to prepare the future. And I would like, as a conclusion, a remark to thank again very warmly the founders of futurEU, the jury members, send my very best wishes and regards to the colleagues from the RT School and the Jacques Delors Institute for their involvement. And I wish the best of luck to the finalist team. Thank you very much. So Ricardo or Francesca, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Thank you, Aurélien, really for your very kind words about the initiative and very important words regarding Civica. The Civica Alliance truly allowed us to bring debates on the future of the EU beyond the borders of one single university campus. And for this, we are very, very grateful. I would like to take this moment to also congratulate all of the teams that registered, submitted their policy briefs, presented incredible proposals yesterday and today. As Christine mentioned before, in a year that it's so difficult for students to normally engage in the rooms and corridors of their campuses, we truly hope that the futurEU competition gave you an opportunity to, even if virtually, have a reason to come together. Ultimately, we are very proud to be able to say that with this is its culmination of our futurEU project. This competition did, in fact, bring together students, and it did allow them to have their voice heard on a future that we believe it's theirs too. On this note, I would like to ask Ricardo to share a short video that we prepared for our audience. Thank you.
Okay, I would like now to ask the rest of the futurEU team to come on stage. It's our time as well to present ourselves. And we have Cecilia, Zoe, Marise, and also Victor and Avera. Zoe, Cecilia, and Marise are founders, like Francesca and I, and they're also students and graduates of the Herdy School. And then we have Victor and Avera, who are first-year students at the Herdy School, and they've been our newest additions to the team. I would like now to maybe ask you guys to say a few words on yourselves and to tell us a little bit more about you.
Hello, I'll go first. I'm Francesca. I'm also a founder of futurEU. I'm currently a research associate at the Hertie School. It has been an honor for us to be able to put this competition together for the students. It has been incredible to hear their voices and be with them throughout the week. We had an incredible informal networking event with them, and it was heartwarming to hear how our initiative helped them throughout this year. And I would like now to pass the floor to Cecilia. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned, I am Cecilia. As some of you already know me, I was part of the group of founders of futurEU, and to be honest, I could never have imagined that the response that we were able to gather. There was this moment during the networking event where I was particularly humbled, and I realized how proud I was to be part of this initiative, and so proud how proud I was about the briefs that you guys have contributed to this competition. I think that I can speak for everyone in the team. This competition and the support we gathered also from our partners really went over and beyond our expectations, and we are extremely grateful for this. So thank you very much. Zoe.
Thank you, Cici. Good afternoon to all. We're just really glad that so many people believed in our initiative. As we mentioned 2 years ago, we were sitting in a bar in Berlin discussing about the future of Europe, and now it's happening. So it's just a pleasure to be here and to see all of you and to listen to great policy proposals. Thank you.
I'll go next. Hello, everybody. My name is Maries. As you just heard, I'm an MIA student, second-year MIA student at the Hertie School, and I'm also one of the 2 student Civica ambassadors from the Hertie School. And yeah, I mean, I will probably just repeat what the others said already, but it's been a crazy ride for all of us. We put a lot of effort into this being a great project for everybody participating, and yeah, I think I'm very happy that it turned out this way, and yeah, I'm super excited that we got this far with this. And now I'm going to pass on over to Navira.
Yes, sorry, earlier I was just having some technical issues, but my name is Navira. I'm a student of MIA at Hertie School of Governance. I am relatively new to the project, but it was just I'm just so happy to see that we've been managed to do all of this despite all the little hurdles that we were facing. And just these 2 days, the past week has been extremely overwhelming for us, and we really hope that everybody who was watching it enjoyed it as well. But this has been a very good, insightful experience for sure. Victor, over to you. I think you're the one left.
Okay, thank you as well. I guess that joining futurEU was one of the wisest decisions I took in the near past, and I could learn a lot and very fast. I'm an outsider. I'm an MPP student from Brazil, but now I'm in Berlin, and I'm looking forward to the result. And thank you for everybody for this opportunity. I pass it out now to Ricardo and or Francesca.
Thank you to the amazing futurEU team. Thank you for all your work. We currently have 50 seconds left on the timer of the breakout room for the judges. So I am sure that our teams are truly waiting with a lot of trepidation to hear about the results. So are we, and we cannot wait to hear who the winner of the first edition of the futurEU competition will be. I will utilize this 30 seconds to reiterate how proud we are of all the students that participated. 123, again, registered, and we are humbled by the numbers. I want to congratulate the 2 finalist teams, again, independently of who the winner will be. Our clapping from the futurEU team on 2 incredible presentations. And now we're back in 2 seconds for the announcement. Thank you, futurEU team.
And before we move on to the announcement, No worries, Christine. We will have a small presentation, just like a couple of seconds more. Hang in there, and you will. Okay.
The suspense is not over yet.
And we will know the winner. I guess this reminds us again that the winner of the competition will have their policy brief published on the Jacques Delors Center website. And
now
we will welcome the judges again with their cameras on.
And please, also the finalist teams, please come on stage. We would like to take a very happy picture with all of you to commemorate this moment before the big announcement. I'm very sorry to the teams. How nice I see that some of our EU students are all together at the EU campus, I imagine. I believe that we are all here. I will now give our usual 3, 2, 1, and then ask all of you to smile. Thank you so much. 3, 2, 1. Great. Thank you for this. Now, teams, we will not keep this announcement from you any longer. We'll leave the stage, and chair and judges, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Francesca and Ricardo. So sometimes I think grading is difficult. Sometimes I think being part of selections for jobs is difficult, but this was certainly exceptionally difficult for us as a panel to decide, not least because both proposals were so excellent, but also because they were so different. So we really felt we were choosing between proposals which are almost difficult to compare. They say that as a comparativist. We looked at the proposals, we thought about the presentation, the judges considered how they felt their questions answered. They also looked back to the previous rounds. And we, of course, also thought, in particular, our colleagues from the Jacques Delors Center who run the publication strategy, which team would, which policy brief could they publish, could they work with? Of course, the answer was both. Which do they think would speak better, perhaps, to audiences they would speak to? So we discussed the different aspects. We discussed the different ideas. We felt that in many ways, with both proposals, we were in a Habermasian context where deliberation, bringing people in, looking from the local to the supranational was what we saw and we really, really appreciated. So what shaped our decision in the end? Our decision in the end was shaped by essentially 3 issues. First, we felt the research and the preparation that had gone into the winning proposal was stronger, more precise, more, I say, realistic. The second one was the way the proposals were presented. So we felt the winning proposal convinced not just as a brief, not just as a proposal, but also in a sense in the seriousness with which the judges felt their questions were answered, and the seriousness with which the questions of the audiences were answered. Both teams were serious, both teams were highly committed, but we felt one of the teams was perhaps a little bit more precise, a little more sort of going into the depths of the questions put to them. And for us, this is something really important if you want to defend your proposal to, in a sense, the wider world. And the third one was a little bit the path to success, how to say. So the question of, could the proposal that was submitted, could the brief that was submitted really sway a wider audience, starting with the conference on the future of Europe? We would like to thank both teams who would have loved to give 2 first prizes, but we can only give 1. And we would like to give the first prize to the team that presented first, to the local team, to the team pitching for the committee of the region, the Franco-German collaboration between Nazlihan and Elena. Please do come back on stage and show yourselves. We were really, really convinced by what you showed us. We do think, I know you got quite a tough question from Christian in the sense of, can you make this more ambitious? So this was one of the aspects we discussed. And we actually think that your proposal, with the help of the Jacques Delors Center, can be, in a sense, jazzed up, made more ambitious, perhaps not as utopian in an excellent way as the other one, but we do think this will be a proposal that will potentially fly and potentially convince a broader audience than us judges. We say that with a bit of a heavy heart, especially some of us loved the Habermasian thrust of the second one, but we were ultimately more convinced, by a margin, by Nazlihan and Elena. Are we asking the second team to come on stage as well, or is that not foreseen, Ricardo?
No, we're asking the Nazlihan and Elena. First of all, congratulations, and also, yes, also to the second team as well. You did a great job. It was really nice to have you all here. And we will now ask Nazlihan and Elena if you have any questions that a short thank you speech for the judges, for your family, friends. This is your moment. Please come on stage.
First of all, I thank you all the initiators, all the organizers, and especially to my project partner, Elena, because we really worked strongly together, and we really did a great job, I think. I thank you, Elena, and I thank you, the judges, and I thank you, the organization team of the Future of EU initiative. It was really fun. It was a journey that we didn't expect. We had really fun to research on the Committee of the Regions, something that no one knows barely about this institution. So it was really fun for me, and I would like to give the word to Elena.
Yeah, I'm still a little speechless because we didn't expect this. We today it was Nazlihan's first working day in the Ministry of Labor, and we didn't expect to end up in the final. So we wanted to incorporate the feedback, and it was a rough few hours since yesterday, but it was worth it, and we're really so happy and so thankful that actually this journey is not over yet, and we can work more on the details, or maybe also more on really how to get some more or increase the visionary aspect of our proposal. But yeah, just also thank you so much for the organization,
Yes.
for your continuous and tireless effort, really. Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, congratulations also thank you all. Congratulations from the futurEU team to Nazlihan and Elena. Again, 2 incredible proposals, and we cannot be happier about the results of this final. It was an incredible final. I want to thank the judges for all of their support throughout the initiative. Since the written round, they've endlessly been with us. I would like to thank Christine for her beautiful keynote speech and for her support since the very beginning. I would like to thank Aurélien as well, Civica, and all the other people you've seen mentioned in our videos. We wish you all a great night, and we hope to definitely see you again for the second edition of the futurEU competition coming next year, with more proposals, with more student engagement, and with more student voices heard on the future of the European Union. Thank you all.
Thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Neslihan and Elena.
Thank you so much. We're so happy.